Hey, Matt, it's been over 24 hours. I can't believe it.
I know. I'm trying to make us look different. I am on a phone. Dave's here. Let's see if Dave's going to come in.
Let's hope so.
Hey, Dave.
Hi, Dave.
Can you hear us,
Hey,
buddy?
I can't hear you.
Change your settings. Message him to change his settings.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you
I
message
can't
him to
hear
change his
anything
settings,
from you
Cheryl?
guys.
All right. I'll message him.
Look at your phone.
Let me try to log out and come back in. Give me a sec.
Nope. Okay. All right. I am going to share the link on social. Are we even on the channel? Are we on? Let's check YouTube. Make sure we're coming in.
Okay.
This is the worst way to start a video. Ladies and gentlemen, we're well aware this is the worst way to start a video. We're usually very prepared. But this is a fucked up day. Because it says we only have one viewer, and by default, we usually have at least 5 or 6, even if coming on this late. So it
it's
says
on
one.
YouTube. It says James Hall is what it says.
Well, that's the problem. Let's change the title.
Okay.
Let's change the title for starters. That's part of the problem.
People have been messaging me saying, "Are we going live?" And I said, "Yeah, Matt's having issues." So
HYROX World Champs. Type in the thing, change your settings.
okay.
Because maybe that's his problem.
All right. I'm talking.
Do it now. Do it now. Change your settings. If we can't hear you.
I said, Matt says to change your settings.
If we can't hear you.
Okay.
Okay, there we go. There we go. Hello? Hello?
Hey, I can hear you now. I was just waiting.
Yay!
Hi.
We're up and running.
Hey, everybody. Thank you, everybody. We're live. It's the HYROX live show. Oh, my goodness. Hybrid live show. What a mess. I'm doing this from my phone. And Dave is... Where's Dave? Dave, where are you, buddy?
I'm elsewhere. I'm utterly mobile.
Are you in a van down by the river?
I'm at our new place.
The Noop already?
Yes, working on it. We're just about there.
All right.
We're just about there.
You don't have to, you're just a boot there. You don't have to give an address, but what town are you in?
We're close to a town called Acton, so we're actually a little closer to Toronto than we were.
Okay, so you'll be closer to the Toronto HYROX, the 7-day Toronto HYROX that's coming, right?
I will.
That was the big announcement they made. They announced
right.
all the stadiums, they announced the majors, and then they said Toronto will now be 7 days because nobody got tickets.
Wow. You didn't say that. That's amazing.
Because I just made it up.
Okay.
So I
haven't
want
heard a
to.
good rumor by 9. You gotta make one up.
That's what Dave always says. So thank you so much for joining, everybody. We're glad you're here. We have a lot to get to. Imani Michelle here and says, yes, you're glad you made it. Dave, I hope you can stay a little bit longer than you planned on, or I know we're late starting because there's so much to talk about. And I thought before we go into all the stuff, I want to get a word, if you can, if not a sentence or two on overall feeling of the weekend. I'm going to start with Dave, who had a different perspective than we did since he wasn't there, but he was in tune with what was happening.
Am I summing this up in just a word, or
well, if you got a word,
like
great. If
not,
if you could do a word or you could do a sentence or two. We're going to spend a lot of time going into stuff, but I want to get a word or a short sentence about your overall feeling on the weekend.
Well, you guys are a little froze to me, but I don't know if you hear me. I would go with inconsistent. Like for me, it was inconsistent in a bunch of different ways. One, both in how I was viewing the event on the first night seemed like fantastic from what I could see, and then as it went along, there became like inconsistencies in equipment, and as well as how I was perceiving the event and how certain things were run. And the first night seemed very well organized and they were on top of it, but then it just fluctuated all over the place. So yeah, the whole thing was inconsistent. And yeah, I mean, there was highs where I thought this was absolutely amazing, and then there were other times where I'm like, you've got to be shitting me. So it was inconsistent. I'll go with that to start.
Okay, I'm gonna go with, I actually couldn't think of it until you said your word, and then for some reason it just popped in. I'm gonna go with supersized. It felt like HYROX on steroids, bigger, badder, more uncut. You know, I hadn't been to a World Championships in 2022, but even just energy, sponsors, I mean, like all those photographers running around, those are sponsor folks. You know, it wasn't New York Times, sadly. It was, you know, people, managers, brands, and just the whole thing felt bigger. And obviously, I have some issues that will go into the inconsistent category, but that's my word over supersized. Cheryl Snow, you're up.
I think along those lines, my first thought was overwhelming. And when I say that, I felt like look, this is my third Worlds. It just gets bigger every time. It used to be, even in Manchester, I felt like I could see people I knew and I would get to talk to who I wanted to talk to. And it's just getting harder and harder. There's so many more people. The venue was kind of like a maze, like that Navy Pier. There were hallways and nooks and crannies, and you kind of had a hard time figuring out where you were. But then aside from that, competition-wise, I felt like we were pretty overwhelmed. People were trying to keep track of that first run, trying to make sure that they didn't mess that up, because that was not something we were used to doing, was counting the laps the way they were asking us to count the laps. Obviously, the sleds overwhelmed us. A lot of things, the wall ball judging overwhelmed us. I feel like it's going to take me a while to recover from this, just because of just the sheer amount of energy we had to spend to experience this weekend. It was a lot.
By the way, what was the final tally? Was it 4:33 or 4:32? What was the final tally on laps?
On laps, it was technically 3, 2, and then 2.5.
So not too confusing.
No, like people were asking, and we were all sort of, you know, friends were saying, I'm just going to write it on my arm, like trying to figure that out. And once you were out there, it wasn't too bad, but you did have to worry a little bit.
All right. Well, Dave's the one who said he doesn't mind counting laps. I definitely mind counting laps, especially when it's multiple, when it changes over time.
Exactly. That was the problem is that it was different that the middle laps were consistent, but the first and the last were inconsistent, and that made it tough. So to Dave's point, inconsistent.
Well, I do want to go in order a little bit. In order of the weekend, and I can't remember if this is what's first on your sheet. Since I'm not on my computer, I don't know that Google Doc handy, but was the first thing talking about the press conference and the announcements?
I had that down as something we might even be able to talk about next week, because it's
okay. What's the first thing? What's the first thing on the agenda then?
Dave, you can decide, because what I had was that the two big piles are either the elites and their races and everything surrounding that, or the age group athlete experience, which I think there was a lot of big news there as far as what it was like for all of us there.
Well, I guess it depends. Do you want to start with good or bad?
I want to start with what you want to talk about, because you want to talk about. Yeah, you're not going to be here maybe as long as the rest of us, so I want to see what you want to talk about.
All right. Well, I'll get my 2 cents, and then I guess I'll just start with my experience. Okay, so night one, I'm super stoked, super excited, and I'm watching personal preference couldn't give a crap about all the preamble. So I was like, oh, I wish they would just hurry up and get on with it. But whatever. I mean, they did a good job. They did it. Some people love that stuff, so that's just personal preference. They did a good job with it. Everything was looking well. Videos were going good. The storytelling was good. That was all cool. And then the Elite 15 race for the men and women, my first initial experience from it as I watched it was pretty good. I was delighted that the counters didn't seem to play a role in the event. And I was so happy that happened. The race itself, I found it entertaining. Tim, just, oh my God, Tim, unbelievable. What a weekend. What a guy. Right? That was all great. Yeah, just fantastic. On the women's race, like, I don't want to call it. Yeah, I do actually. Yeah, massive upset. Like, what a surprise. Right. And just and no controversy. Just a well-earned race, like a great race. That was my initial reaction, and then afterwards, as the weekend went on and the sleds started being a fiasco, I started thinking in my head, I'm like, was it a great race? Was it screwed up? Did some of these people get hosed? And I'm not saying anyone in particular. I'm just, because I don't know. But just the inconsistency of it all of a sudden made me question, like, how great I initially thought it was.
So you didn't go back and like see who had what sleds on what night and that kind of thing?
No, I haven't had a chance to do that yet. I eventually will. I did take a little more look on that when I was watching the doubles relay. I paid a little more attention to that, and it definitely looked like some of them, like, I mean, I think the number one sled whoever got to the number one sled on the doubles ended up getting euchred on that and dropping back. It seemed very heavy, whereas the ones towards the middle seemed to be moving like grease lightning. So, and that's just a quick observation. So, I mean, yeah, so I went from a great start where I was really, really happy and excited, and it just dropped on me, and I was really disappointed. So I guess you want to stick with the sleds for a bit?
No, we'll go back to the sleds. I want to talk about
the turf.
No, because we have so much more to talk about the races. I'd like to talk about the races a little bit more.
Yeah, I think let's get the races out of the way because the sleds had just as much bearing on the age.
That's the good.
Yeah. Okay.
Was one night? That's all you had?
So no. I mean, that was my first night experience, right? And I enjoyed it, and I was, like I said, I enjoyed that. I had a really good time with it, and I was very much looking forward to the rest of it. And then I watched the team relay, and I thought this requires more organization and perhaps needs to be revamped entirely. I was thinking about it and watching, and again seeing, I don't know, I can't remember what team it was. I think it might have been New Zealand coming into the sleds, and the gentleman having to wait for a man's sled, for a male weight sled. I don't know if that was the team.
That. Mm-hmm.
Now, I thought two things I thought about this. One, it could have been HYROX's problem not being prepared for the two guys to come in, because mostly it was women doing the sled pull. But it also could have been the team's problem, where maybe they submitted that they would be having a woman do it instead of a man, and that's where it became a problem. So I don't know. I'm kind of surprised they haven't stated. I haven't heard anything from anyone, including the team that happened to, as to why that happened. So that seemed a bit disorganized. The transition zones. I mean, the running in and out of there, I think I think that could be organized a lot better. I think, like I said,
apparently there was contact there as well, when people said, "Oh, Hunter and what's his name had a whole thing," but what about the contact in the zone? And apparently JK had someone. I don't know. Do you remember?
Somebody cut JK off just as he was going into the zone. Somebody cut right in front of him.
Right.
It like literally we came out of the zone and they sprinted right up beside Jay, and just as he was going to turn into the zone to tag, they cut right in front of him. And I thought at the time, I'm like, well, how fucking pointless is that? You know, it just seems stupid. It seemed like a dumb move. And even JK kind of went like, what are you doing? Like, just what? But part of that is my problem is part of that setup is conducive to that happening. If you have the setup more organized, that can stop that, or at least limit the possibility for that. It won't be so, like, when you got people racing into one small area, you're bottlenecking them, and sometimes it's going to happen with no choice, and then other times people just do it on purpose. But I just think it could be revamped. I was said to Rye when we were driving the other day, I said, I honestly think Jay, I honestly think that they should take the relay and make it like the doubles, and everybody does the men's open weights. And I think that because no matter what, one, it means all the sleds are set properly. Everything's fine. All the weights are set out. There's no confusion, no potential for confusion. Farmers carry, lunges, wall balls, anything. They all do the men's open weights and go from there. And not only that, that's going to change strategies up a bit. Now, all of a sudden, it's not going to be, okay, well, let's make sure we have all the women do the wall balls, because it could be different now because they're doing heavier weights. It might be, maybe we don't want all the guys on the ergs because we might need them on the sleds because the sleds are heavier now. So it could change up strategy a lot. And I just think that would be a smoother and simpler start to revamping the relay.
Isn't mixed relay, isn't normal mixed relay like that already?
Normal mixed relay is
What's
open
that?
weight for women and men. So it's still two different weights. And I think what Dave's saying is let's do it like mixed doubles, where it's just men's open. So women are having to push pro and men are pushing open.
So I've done a mixed relay. So are you saying, depending on who comes in, they point you to a different sled?
Exactly.
Okay.
What I don't understand is that venue was enormous. And why did they have them corralled in that tiny, tiny spot? Why didn't they have a few sleds set up? It's not hard to throw some, plates on there. And they were coming out of that corral and making this real tight hairpin turn, which was really causing problems, I think, for the athletes. None of that was necessary. None of it. They could have easily just shifted some things around, given them a much larger section, made it a lot more conducive for people being able to get some speed up. And why cut somebody off? I mean, it's not making that much of a difference, but I can see where I just think it was crowded. I just think it was strangely crowded.
Well, it looks like they just left the setup, right? So the Elite 15 setup in that first night, they just left it there so that it could be there again. And then the relay was a little corner over here, and they would have had to do bigger resets, and they didn't want to do that.
But Matt, you know how when you have
they call that lazy.
I'm just saying, I think that's what happened.
Listen, when we were crossing back into like the warm-up area or whatever, there was that huge section, right, where there was never any traffic in the venue for crossing. Like there weren't big backups. People were able to get across the course really, really easily because there was a ton of space there. You can't tell me they couldn't have set up the transition zone just right over there. I mean, it just really wouldn't have been that hard for them to just, exit the rock zone or whatever, get done with their stations and pop over there and tag their teammate. There was plenty of room everywhere. So it's almost
right, but that was the far end of the building though, right?
The building was huge.
I'm saying, but what you're describing is now you got to get a camera person all the way down there. I just think that's not necessarily the answer. I just think if they didn't want to, if you want to do that, just they could have done it. It just would have required a slight reset, and they clearly didn't want to do a bigger reset just because they had so much going on.
Well,
I was going to read this comment, and now it's so small on my phone I can't read it. Oh, it's Sophia. Hey, Sophia. HYROX bringing the entertainment and drama this weekend. Got to tune into the live show when it's live. Welcome, Sophia. OCROG, Sophia Harmony. I lost my train of thought. Where were we? Besides talking about the relay. So
they couldn't spare a cameraman. They couldn't spare some effort.
Well, no, they could have done some effort, just not what you're describing. What you're describing is putting you all the way down. I'm saying move some of the stuff the same way, DECA has to reset. They just would have had to move some stuff and then move it back. And it sounds like they didn't do that and thought it would work. I think I have a bigger problem with what is this thing anyway? You get a captain to pick a team, right? Does a captain pick based on who they think can win? Did they pick their friends? Did they pick who they're sponsored with? Money goes to, right? It's all over the place. Some countries get invited, some don't. It seems pretty random. And if you're going to give money to it, maybe there needs to be a little bit more structure, especially since this year you had an opportunity where one team gets DQ'd, gets no money. And then second and third, by the way, they don't both get second place money. they split second and third place money. So whatever that total is, they split that.
HYROX can't afford to be just giving out second place monies.
Well, I asked Mo about that, and I haven't been able to put that clip up because everybody wanted to know about the Hunter thing first. But he says that's normal. That's all sport. He says that usually happens. That typically in any kind of track and field event,
that's
whatever.
not what the Dubai games.
Whatever. So it's not what they did at DECA either, but he's saying that's pretty standard. So yeah, I would have given them both second place money. But wait a minute, how much do they earn more? No, they must earn less if they split it, right?
Yeah, you would. If you divide things, there's less of it.
They earn less.
Right. Yeah. So that seems a little wonky.
So what's your solution? Do you think that the relays is the relay silly, or do you think that there should actually be real relay teams that then compete and qualify for worlds and, like make it an actual thing? Like
I think that would be the move to make, because
I think that would be really fun, actually.
I think it was a cool idea last year, because it's like, oh, isn't this a cool other way to see the elites? But now with elite doubles, you've now completely taken that away, and now you just have this other random thing, which created all the stuff that it created. But are they going to ditch it entirely? I don't know. And I still have a problem that they did it. And I spoke to at least one elite athlete who felt the same way. Why are we doing this on night 2?
Yeah.
One, I don't know anyone who didn't feel that way.
Oh, I'm just saying, like, I can speak for one person. So I'm just, being a good journalist.
And I also know that there are a lot of relay teams out there in the regular races who are really trying. And how fun would it be for them to actually qualify and then come represent their country? That would be so fun.
Yeah. Hey, man, if you're in America, if you're willing to stay up to about midnight, put your relay team together. You're going to start at 10. Okay.
You would be poised and ready for World Championships.
I do like the idea of set a weight standard and be done with it. Right. I think that would be a good move.
Yes.
So yeah, I like that idea. And the fact, I knew the crowd would be less, right? We know there's going to be less on Friday night and Thursday night, but then the next night, I think we get them back for doubles, and we don't. And it was super empty for a really competitive, really cool, where you can think about it just like growing the Elite 15 in year 1. Like, here's this new thing, and let's get excited about it. And here's a bunch of athletes we know and some other ones who we don't know, and chances for upsets and whatever. And it gets stuck at the end, and like very few people were there to see it.
Why do you suppose that is?
Well, because they didn't have it night 2.
You think night 2 they would have had more?
Of course they would have had more. If people showed up for the relays, which we know they don't care as much about. And also, what about a 6 p.m. start?
That would have helped.
You know what I mean? Because you were saying, so many people watched the women's race and then went to bed, right? Mm-hmm. A, because they're tired of being on their feet or whatever. B, because they want to race the next day. Why not a 5 p.m.? Especially, it's a Thursday night. So, you know what I mean? Like, you're either going to be you're either home watching it, or you're in the fucking building. And if you're in the building, you know what I mean? How about 5 p.m. and then a 6:30 women's or whatever? What do you think, Dave, about that? Starting way earlier, and it's still Friday Night Lights, quote unquote.
Totally would want it way earlier. I don't understand the obsession, especially when there's nothing beforehand, and waiting till so late. Like, it seems silly. Yeah, definitely would be an earlier start for sure. I think would be helpful. I think
it felt way too late for the athletes.
The whole
we didn't want to stay up to be able to we didn't want to stay there in the venue. We had too much going on. It was going to be too late for us to be able to rest up for our races the next day. But I walked by the hotel restaurant, and there are all those Europeans who run HYROX eating dinner at like 9 o'clock at night, because I have to wonder if we Americans just like going to bed earlier than they do, and maybe it's not as big of a deal to them.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think you're right. It's a culture thing.
European listeners and watchers, you might be in bed now, but if you're listening to this in the podcast sometime in the future, let us know. Are we being wusses? We can't be, though, because they would have been there in the room. They were all there for the Parade of Nations, right? Everyone showed up for that. So push that back even earlier. And do you want to talk about your Parade of Nations experience? Or do you want to save that for your athlete experience pitch?
I could just, I think it has bearing on this because, look, I think I got there. I think one of the special things about Worlds, two things, is the shirt, right? It's the badge of honor, right? We all want to get the shirts, and there were issues with the shirts that I will talk about later. But then I did want to get there early enough to do the Parade of Nations, right? I want to be able to see, represent our country and walk in, and you get there and you get with your country and you're so excited and people are taking pictures and we're all happy to be there. And then we're like waiting, especially the United States. They do it alphabetically. U is at the end of the alphabet and we are waiting. We're waiting for a solid hour, hour and a half, as slowly they're trying to bringing people in, trying to get this done. And we're starting to get tired and we're starting to think about our races the next day. And they finally get us in the building because they had us all arranged outside. And they finally get us in the building. And this happened last year at Nice too, where they say, oh, hey, sorry, but there's nowhere for you to sit in the venue. You guys get to stand along the race course, right along the grid, acting like we're some sort of privileged group. And we've been on our feet for an hour and a half by this point, and we've got races the next day. And it did not feel like a privilege. And everybody was like, I'm out. And we walked in, we said hello, and then we just took off. And I went back to my room and watched the YouTube coverage because the YouTube coverage is excellent.
Were you sulking? Did you walk back to your room and sulk?
No, I was completely prepared for this because it had happened the year before. And they put us all in like as nations, which is great, except I came with my husband. I would love to watch with my husband. And there's really no way to sort of find him because they're sort of shuttling all the nations to sort of be together. And so I think in theory, it's always really great. And I don't know what they can do to fix it, but every single time, Manchester, Nice, and now this time, I'm just like, by the end, I'm just thinking, this is dumb. I'm so tired. Like I just can never sort of, stick the landing on the Parade of Nations.
Well, so I'm not a fan of it at all. To me, it feels like fake, like we're not the Olympics. This doesn't really mean much. Yes, you get to represent your country. And then I almost said, but I've never had a chance to do it. But then I remembered I've been to Greece and I certainly could have marched in Greece and I didn't because I thought, well, this is lame. I don't want to do it. I could be doing something else. I could be eating, I could be doing something else. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of it at all. Dave, would you march for Canada if you come to HYROX Worlds?
I don't know. Like maybe if I did, like Cheryl said, I would do it one time and that would be it. And then, but my question is, what was it? Where, Cheryl, you guys were all outside. Where were they going to put you if it pissed rain?
I don't think there were plans for that.
Where were you all going to go?
Yeah.
Just get dumped on out there?
Yeah. Because there was rain in the forecast. It rained the day before, I believe. And yeah, they just got lucky. No, it rained the day after. That's right. So I don't know if there were plans for that or not, but I guess they just expected us to bring umbrellas.
Yeah. Well, I think that is more on the experience side, which I want to get to, but I do want to talk about the races because I know a lot of people want to hear about the races and we haven't really touched on those. So there were massive shockers all over the place. Nobody did well in the poll. Basically, if you put Dylan on the podium, you won the poll. You did right. Or if you had Linda, you had a shot, right? Because it was, did you just raise your hand? Okay. So I'm going to say that I
had Dylan, but not Linda.
Okay. So on this very show, I said, Ronco can win, JK can win, Dylan can win. Hunter probably not on the podium, right? So I kind of want credit for saying I thought Dylan could win, but Dylan could also finish 12th, right? So what did you say? Do you remember without looking, Cheryl, who you picked?
I picked JK like everybody else did because I don't know anything. The thing I am proud of is I picked Hunter for second.
Okay. You did not doubt the old man. Good job.
You know what? I just feel like that guy needs a project. And I felt like this was a project for him. And I thought he was not going to disappoint. But I also felt like he was probably in a place where he wouldn't be able to pull off the win. That's why I put JK ahead of him.
Right.
So that's my only claim to success.
Who did you pick? Dave C.
Can he not hear you?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you there. Say that again.
Who'd you pick?
I said, who did you pick on the men's side?
So I did two different pools. Like I did them both. So I kind of switched it up, hedged my bets a little bit different
Good
on
job.
each one. But
Good job.
I can honestly say in both of them, I had Dylan on the podium, either first or second. I had JK either first or second. I did not have Hunter in the top 3. I did not have Hunter in the top 5. I can honestly say. I think my biggest thing though was I did have Tim in the top 5 on both of them.
Good job.
Yeah. So I admit that I did not think Hunter would come through on this. So, hats off to him. He put in a great race in that solo effort. That was fantastic. He really, really raced a strong race for him, a good strategy. I was thinking about it though when I was watching it, and when we talked before, Matt, when you said why doesn't everybody just do the sit and kind of race their own pace? And it's because of guys like Tim who are always going to push it, and somebody's going to make it work. And that's what he did again, is he pushed it and he finally made it work to the end. And that's why if you can do like that you can do that pace if you want to do well, right? If you want to do well, you can do that. But if you want to win, you got to go for it.
Well, I will say my buddy, Rich Ryan, who I did I said on the show into his face, don't pick you to win, put you on the podium, said he tried something different. And I said, why would you try something different he's like, because I don't got that many more chances. Mm-hmm. So that's why I said you didn't race your normal race, did you? He goes, no, I wanted to stay with those guys. And, I thought I had it after the pull. After the pull, I was good. And then I wasn't. So, yeah, that blows my theory out of the water that everybody's an idiot who doesn't just sit around and wait. Another 2-3 wall balls. Hunter is the champion again, and we never hear the end of it from Hunter.
That was such a nail biter. I have not been that excited about the end of a race in a really long time. That was fantastic. And it did my heart good to see the champion just have a tough time at wall balls, right? When you're dropping it and doing like 2s and 3s, it just makes me feel like, okay, they are human. It's just really gratifying to see. So,
well, I gotta say that as I already said in our chat, the 2 biggest pops, as we say in wrestling, and we'll get to the second one in a little bit, was he drops the ball at 80 something. The whole crowd. I don't know if Dave left or is just coming back. He drops it at 92. The crowd goes even louder. He drops it at, I think, 98.
Yeah.
And I'm right there at the bottom. I'm there, just like waiting for them to finish. And wow, that was as exciting as we've ever seen it. And Hunter did say, yeah, if I won, I was riding off in the sunset. That was going to be it. 4-time champ. That's it. He said, if you didn't watch the press conference, he said, I wanted to do this. I've done this, but I've never done this. And it would have been really sweet, actually. I think in many ways it would have maybe endeared him to some people. But yeah, he didn't get to do it.
Yeah, I would have been impressed with that for sure. But it was so exciting to see Tim just squeak it out too. So so fun. So fun. I'm the only one here. I don't know what to do about this, but I will say that I feel like the German sweep has been really interesting, and that Tim is going to be a very interesting champion. And I do want to find out. What these guys think about it. So if I'm just here, I want to hear from the live chat people, because I don't know what else to talk about. So yes, I agree, Jabari, that Tim raced an excellent race strategy. And I just felt like him coming through on the doubles was really impressive. It just showed that he was just poised and ready. It wasn't a one-off for him to be able to pull off that championships. So, and yes, the gasps at the wall balls were, it just made for a really great show. Really fun. I do think this sport is great to have such a dramatic final station for sure. Maybe even better than just running it. So yeah, who knows where the guys are? Let's take a look and see if there's anything in the chat about this. Nope, not seeing it. Yeah, putting in the work. And yes, we do have to take those championships back in Stockholm. We've got a year to fix it. I think there will be a lot of people that will do that. I'm wondering what people think about Alex Ronkovich, just his tenure as champion, and how you thought he did, or any other thoughts about the men's race while we're waiting for these guys to show up. All right, nobody's helping me. So let's see what the chat says. I'll tell you what's going on, guys. So Dave says he's trying to get back on. Who knows if this is even coming through. So yeah, I think while we're waiting, we'll talk a little bit about just the age group experience as far as some of the other things that went on during that time. I do think that I want to speak a little bit to just the whole process of the athletes being there and how HYROX has been kind of upping their game as far as that's concerned. But yeah, Brendan's saying that injury sucks, but rather it be after you get the title. It's sad he didn't have the chance to rebound fully for 2025, and I think that's probably true. So anyway, Dave says I'm coming through. So let me just say, you know, that first day, like the day that we were there waiting for the Elite 15 race, a lot of us were there kind of registering and getting our stuff together and stuff. And HYROX has become super excellent at being able to make the athlete experience better and better. Past years, getting in line for registration has been a little chaotic and a little difficult. And this time they organized it such where you just had to find your race time, and then you would just show up at a certain booth that had a window of that race time that you were involved in. And I went in and I gave them my credentials and, you know, told them, you know, gave them my code and gave them my ID. And they handed me a packet that was just a sealed packet that had everything I needed in it. It had this shirt in the size that I had told them that I needed. It had a tattoo for my arm for my race time, so that we didn't have to worry about markers. And then that had my timing chip, and it had my AmazeFit coupon and so forth. So I just felt like everything went super nice that way. They just kind of handed me that packet and I was able to go, and it was just super quiet. There you are, Dave. Matt, you need to let Dave in. This is awful. I was just talking about the experience before the Walk of Nations and so forth. The problem is that a lot of people didn't have that experience. And I think, you know, Heather White was talking about how they didn't have a shirt for her and that sort of thing. And so there were some people, I think, who were frustrated with an event that big. I think they were able to pull off this stuff pretty well, but then obviously there were some issues as well. So
okay, can you guys hear me okay, by the way?
We can hear you just fine.
Okay, for some reason, my computer was plugged in this whole time, but then my phone went dead. I was like, okay, I'll plug it into the computer because the computer's charged. And it says the little plug thing is there, but it says phone not charging. So anyway, Jesus Christ on a crutch. We're back, and now this computer's working where everything was freezing. I couldn't get to work. And anyway, we're back.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you're back.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I was kind of just filling in time. People want to talk about Tim.
Oh, okay.
But yes, Heather was talking about how like people were kind of getting shafted, and the shirt's kind of everything for these athletes. You know, it's kind of, I don't know, at least for me it is. Like, it would have been really disappointed not to get the shirt I wanted. And a couple other people said the same thing. So yes.
What about the cool upgraded tattoo? And will we be getting those moving forward, do you think?
That's a really good question, because I loved it. I think it's kind of an expensive thing, and I think it's going to be a lot easier to just write stuff on our arms like they usually do, but it was kind of classy for Worlds for sure.
You were saying people want to talk about Tim. Tim shows it's possible to win with any body type, says Rob McCullum.
I want to know what you guys think. Here's my take about last year's champions. Is I felt like Meg Jacoby acted like a champion. She was out there, she was flashy, she was doing all the stuff. And Alex was kind of, I don't know, did we see him much? Did he do much? Like he just seemed a lot quieter. And I felt like as far as kind of the front person for the sport, it was kind of a different way to take it. And I'm just wondering what you think Tim and Linda are going to be like.
Well, I'm going to say that Spartan didn't love it when Zuzana was the champion. Her English wasn't great. She's not Amelia Boone, right? She's not Lindsay. And I think would they have loved it to have Dylan as champion or Hunter as champion or Meg as champion because they're loud and out there, and Linda and Tim are super chill. And one could say, no, it's better for the sport. They're real people. They're humble. But that doesn't always sell things as well. And guys, please don't hate on me. I'm a big fan of Linda. Tim, I don't know at all, but he was always generous with me and his time. But yeah, I think they would probably prefer the loud people. What do you think, Dave?
Flashier.
I think, and you know what? Like I said, I'm a little low on time, so I'm just going to go off now. All right, so
go for it. You got it. The floor is yours.
All right, so I think, quite frankly, that yeah, I mean, they're probably torn. I mean, there's obviously HYROX is a German. They now have 2 German champions. I'm sure they're pretty excited about that. Definitely. And I think Tim is a little more out there than you think. I mean, he's a bit of a partier. He likes to do his stuff. So I think that's all right. Would they prefer somebody like Dylan? Maybe. Would they like somebody like Meg again? Maybe. Would they like Hunter? I don't think they want Hunter anymore. I think that what happened again and with the DQ, and I think that relationship may go very south.
You think? I thought you meant just because of his...
would they want that type?
Go ahead.
Is he freezing?
Yeah, his marketability.
Gene the Machine says you don't need to be flashy at all.
Can you hear me, Cheryl?
Yes.
I can hear you now.
You're just slow.
Yeah.
Gene the Machine says, I don't feel you need to be flashy. Just be yourself. Look, Messi's not flashy at all, but is the biggest guy in football. Yeah, but Messi also is like, you know, he's, I don't know. Messi's got an aura that you can't deny, and because he's Messi. I mean, I don't know if you can compare it to Messi, but okay.
And then here's the thing, like, should that even be a statement anyway? Like, do you just want the best to win? You want the champion to be the champion, right?
Yeah, but but speaking from a marketing perspective, trust me, they loved having Meg. I mean, come on, it's just there's nothing wrong with stating the facts that, like, hey, your biggest champion in the world is attractive and out there and a mom and all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? Dave Werfel says the company doesn't need to be a champion. The company doesn't get to say who the champ is. They can find other faces to promote the brand. Look at Eliud Kipchoge. Many of the best champions are quiet and humble. I guess, but I don't think he sells as many shoes as, I don't know, Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan.
I think that's true. Look, there's a lot of great athletes out there that are doing a great job selling things, and it's just going to be a different feel this year. I think Meg was just kind of our NBA star. You know, she was so flashy and everything. And Linda, look, I didn't ever have her on my radar for my picks because I don't know, she's just a quiet performer. Like, have I noticed anything that she's done? You know, her mom competes and all that great stuff, and she just puts in the work. And I appreciate her as an athlete, and I think I probably relate to her more, kind of like I relate more to Lauren Weeks, right? But it is a different feel, I guess.
Yeah, and again, they don't all have to be Hunter or Andre Agassi, right? Those guys are like 11 on a scale of 1 to 10, but I know they definitely enjoy personalities.
Yeah,
so it'll be different this year, I think. That's what it'll be. It'll be interesting to see that.
They like their marketing. That's what they do.
Well,
all right.
Go ahead. What's your other rant? Go ahead.
Yeah, should we do the elephant in the room thing? Go with the relay DQ?
Go.
Oh, okay,
right.
Sure.
All right. So straight out, I'm sure everybody watching knows what happened. There was an incident between Jeremy and Hunter, and Jeremy, from what I saw, and you guys tell me if you saw this different, but the way I saw it, and I saw it live, I reacted live to it. Jeremy looked like he was doing some blocking, a little bit of weaving back and forth, then cut back to the inside. Then Hunter became annoyed with that and shoved, and not just shoved, not like came
Check.
two people, like 2 lanes across, and shoved / body check Jeremy into the fence.
That is exactly what happened. And Hunter would tell you that's what happened.
All right.
And I would like to point out that he picked the most hidden part of the track to do it.
Yeah. So straight out, and I said this right away, and I stand by it, and I posted online, and I did everything I could to raise this. That's a DQ. It's a straight up DQ without question. You're assaulting another athlete on the course. And I've heard other people say Robin's racing and this and that and that and this, and I call bullshit. Because quite frankly, I think if you were on the course and you were racing me and you got in front of me and I came up beside you and shoved you into the fence, you would not come afterwards and go, hey, that's cool, man. Nice move. Robin's racing. Nah, bullshit.
Yeah,
I'm going to just straight out.
Yeah, I know we got a lot more to say on this, Dave, but I do want to say that I was around a lot of conversations, including with Hunter around this weekend. And you okay, buddy? Oh, there's hamburgers. You can go heat one up. And there's a lot of things I can't share, right? That's just not my thing. Even though technically anything you say around me, since I'm a reporter, if you don't say on the record, is off the record, it's off the record. But I will say that even Hunter's friends and those that love Hunter were like, you took it too far. And he's like, really? And they're like, yeah. Like, so that's the thing. If he had given Jeremy an 8 or a 9 instead of a 15 on a scale of 1 to 10, it would have been boys will be boys. Hunter's always done this. And I think it could have been okay. Right. But like I said, I'm going to say 15 on a scale of 1 to 10. And then it becomes HYROX can't ignore it. I still say if visibly, because remember, they do have cameras that we don't see. They have cameras that didn't make the live feed. And apparently that is the footage they said they can use and did. If from other athletes,
you getting him, Dave?
including the athletes themselves,
okay.
And what people are saying, and blah, blah, blah. Give me 1 second, buddy.
Is he resetting, do you think?
I don't know.
They both did it. They both did it. And they both did it, and one caused the other. What do you think about Dave? Either DQ both or DQ neither.
Okay, so I didn't get everything you said there, but I think what I got is how do I what I think about either DQing both or neither, because they kind of did it both to each other.
Did you get that?
Is that kind of what you were going with?
Yeah, Matt, you were cutting out a ton. So yeah, so there he goes. So Dave, you've got the floor.
Okay. So I'm going to assume that Matt was saying, how do I feel about DQing just both of them for both doing it for antagonists? What I would have done, to be perfectly honest, if the call was mine, is I would have went with a penalty for impeding on Jeremy. I would have given him a penalty for impeding another athlete's progress, right? I probably would have wanted to see a little more footage, but just from the very small footage that I saw, that would probably have been my call. He would receive some kind of penalty. But then Hunter's would have been a DQ for exactly what he got DQ'd for. If Jeremy had been more rough with Hunter and Hunter was rough back, then I just DQ them both. The rules are really pretty simple, right? Like it's, it's right there. It's if you assault another athlete, you get DQ'd. So it would be that simple. I do think that they had to make this call. There was no choice. If they didn't make this call, it would have got worse and worse and worse, and more people would have took liberties. And you want your sport to be serious. You can't go in one sentence and say, we want to go to the Olympics and then allow crap like that. It just doesn't work that way. I've heard a bunch. Yeah. What's that?
I'm hearing on the live feed. I was hearing on the live feed that there was a lot of talk before the race about, bets about, who's going to get out of the ski first and they're going to pay me $1,000. Like, it's pretty clear these guys were going at it early on, just probably just a lot of trash talking and giving each other a really hard time. And I can't help but think that that just continued to escalate. And there does come a point where if it becomes assault, then somebody's got to get into trouble with that. But the fact that it starts with somebody deliberately impeding, it sure sounds like they probably do need to have some consequences. I'm surprised he didn't get any consequences.
Well, and let's just say,
I agree.
how about this? How about this? Let's take it one step further. Jackson's yelling, River's yelling at a fly. Because this is such a rare thing, Jeremy is like, I'm on the world stage with Hunter, right? And was quoted as saying, I'm going to take it to Hunter, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that justifies what Hunter's saying, but I'm saying, like, then to complain is you know what I mean? Is a bit wonky. Like you're trying to play with the big boys and then you're going to complain when it went harder than you thought.
No, bullshit. I don't go that way because again, Jeremy even still, because seriously, like if Jeremy's saying I'm going to take it to Hunter, what he means is I'm going to go right after him. I'm going to race him. I'm going to take it to him.
But that's not what he did. He cut him off, as you said, multiple times.
Exactly. Cut him off multiple times. And for HYROX should have given him a penalty for it, in our opinion. But in their opinion, they didn't see that as penalizable. And even if he did cut him off, you still cannot retaliate. Yeah, and you can't. It's like
I'm not saying 100 was okay.
But you say he should be surprised when he gets pushed into a fence. Well, yeah, he should be surprised because he's cutting off. He's racing like a dick.
I'm saying,
but then Hunter threw him into a fence.
I'm not saying don't be surprised. I'm saying don't go crying to HYROX.
Did he go crying to HYROX?
Yes.
Because it seemed like a lot of people online went crying to HYROX.
Well, that's the thing. They said a complaint was lodged by the Irish team, which I guess they could have done it without him, but I heard from at least one person that they saw him do it. So, and then Dave, if you noticed, his apology video was, I didn't really think I was doing anything wrong. I mean, so I lost a little respect for Jeremy right there. And again, I don't know the guy that well. We joked around a little bit before the event, but that's why Hunter uncollabed the picture, by the way, because they took that picture intentionally after the race. Let's let everybody know that we're okay. Yep. We're bros. They collab on it. And then after he lodges the complaint and then makes a video saying, I guess I got in his way. That's why Hunter uncollabed. So to me, that's, and again, I'm not excusing anything Hunter did, but I'm just pointing out that.
No, and that's why I said, like, I don't know if you were here to hear it, but I said that I thought Jeremy should have got a penalty.
Hang on, Matt Mason, host of the Race Brain podcast, is chiming in. Hang on, where'd it go?
Well, Matt's bringing that. Okay, go ahead.
This is the second time Jeremy has done this. He was the one doing the shoving in Houston. Now, I'm not there. This is unsubstantiated. If you got some video for me, Matt, that's great. But this is at least one reputable source that is on another channel.
I 100% believe Matt. I 100% believe Matt, or that Matt Mason's right. I personally didn't see it, but I take him because I know that he's not someone to make something like that up. And if that was the case, then he should have been DQ'd there. Right?
Who is he talking about?
Yeah, like
Mike Tyson.
Oh, was I doing a Mike Tyson impression?
No. I think in general, yeah.
Oh, okay.
No.
Look, I think a lot of people are saying that.
Yeah, and like I said,
yeah. Go ahead. Are we delayed?
So, like I said, there's in my mind, there's you're not. If you get to the point where you're shoving people, you're DQ'd. That's it. If you're racing and your arms are to your side and you're racing and you're kind of rubbing shoulders, great. That happens. It's crowded. But if you put your hands up and you shove somebody out of the way, or you cut across the track to cut in front of them to shove them out of the way, that's where you should get penalized. We all know when you're doing something you're not. Come on.
No,
they know when they're doing it.
He knows it too. But I also said if this was last year or 2 years ago, I don't think they would have done something. But they got massive sponsorship with Center. They got Fittest or Athletech News calling them the biggest thing in sport. They got all these eyes. They can't have it look like this is. But again, this is on the fucking relay, which kind of nobody cares about. I mean, I'm sorry to say, but like, do they? Yes. Don't at me, folks, because I'm sure Australia's super proud, and I know England was very proud last year because of who they beat and everything else. But we kind of don't care.
So we may not care about the relay. And I will say that, Matt, you were asking about
oh,
the
Cheryl.
What?
Cheryl,
Do I need to hop off?
I got to interrupt. I got a hard cap, guys. I got to bail.
Okay. Okay. See ya.
All right,
Take care, everyone.
Cheryl, read some comments and entertain the folks because I got to deal with River. Okay.
Okay. All right. Go ahead. So Jabari is saying that it's happening even in the open races as well. And yes, Matt does have a lisp. I will agree with you guys that that's probably an issue with his laptop. He's been having a lot of technical issues, as you can tell. So who knows what it'll be like when he comes back, but I hope he stays because I don't like doing this by myself. Here's what I will say that I haven't had a chance to because Dave had to leave. And that is that, yes, just like Dustin is saying, I feel bad for Vivian and Dylan and Lauren. Like, this is literal income for them that they are losing because of this behavior. And I know that, like, I'm a big fan of Kendra Roboski. She was mentioning to me today that she feels like Hunter's penalty was a little too harsh and that Jeremy should have gotten penalized. And I absolutely agree. But then there is part of me that feels like this penalty should have been entirely Hunter's and Jeremy's. Like, give something to Jeremy and something to Hunter. And if this kind of thing is going on and there aren't big enough penalties, then we are going to see it start to trickle down to the age groups. And I think that we need to have a very, very harsh response to it. I've heard some people say that there should be suspensions for both of them. 6 months, you don't get to race. Something to send the message that this is completely unacceptable behavior. I just don't think it's kind of boys will be boys kind of stuff. I think if we want this sport to be upstanding and people to not feel like they're going to get assaulted out there, I think that both of them needed to have something happen to them. That's my speech. Can you hear me, Matt?
No, I heard it. I think there could have been a way to punish both of them. I'm not sure what it is. You know, some people, I think you and I even talked about it, could be fines. But yeah, I think you can't race for 6 months would be a pretty good thing that stops you from doing it again. Because then, yes, there will be rubbing, there will be boys, there will be some jockeying, there will be shit talking, but not the level that you're talking about. Just like in professional football, it's legal to tackle people, it's not legal to clothesline them, right?
Right.
So
We need to draw a line somewhere. And I think better that it just happens in the relay where we can just talk about it and have it be some sort of precedent that HYROX can send so that this doesn't happen again. What I'm trying to figure out is, look, Hunter was going to beat him on the ski anyway. Like, what's the big deal? You know, he could have just let that guy act like that and got to the ski and obliterated everybody and it would have been fine. Is Team USA worried about Ireland? No. So I didn't really understand.
I think that's the bigger question is keeping your head, right? Like, yeah. I think that's the thing is that
not being reactive, right?
Sure. See, somebody is talking about this. I knew there was something that happened at the exchange. Somebody said it was nothing happened. And then this person is saying, sorry, I can barely read.
Yeah.
Because my phone, I'm back on my phone. Says, what about Jeremy getting run over at the farmer's carry during the exchange? Sorry, what does it say?
Yeah, what about Jeremy getting run over after the farmer carry during the exchange? Yeah. So there's just stuff going on, right?
Who's Jeremy? Who's Jeremy?
Not who we're not talking about him. So I don't know.
Oh, Jeremy McConnell, the big guy.
Yes. Okay. I think, there was a lot of jockeying for stuff, right?
Right. Yeah. All right. It's funny because he said what the elf in the room, and I assumed that was Sled's. Because again, like,
because he wasn't there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we had other things to talk about.
Oh, for sure. So do you want me to go down the list and kind of let you choose what we want to talk about?
I can look at the list. And
Okay.
I might have to go deal with my son again.
Okay. Very good. As far as the elite races, I mean, what else did you want to talk about? I mean, is there anybody that stands out to you or anything else that you thought was noteworthy?
Well, you said we have a new star in Sinead, and that was the other biggest pop of the weekend was when Tim dropped the wall balls, and anytime Sinead ran on that farmer's carry, the crowd went bananas. And it was really cool to see because I didn't know why. Like I was way over to the left, I think getting myself in the position for the lunge because I'm like, I'm not going to bother trying to shoot down there. It's too much people to go through. They're going to come right back here. And I hear the crowd go bananas, and I couldn't figure out why. And then I look up, and there's this woman just fucking flying, passing
Yes.
people with 2 kettlebells.
Yeah. That girl, anywhere she was in the venue at any given time, just had this aura about her. Like she's just an incredible addition to this Elite 15 group. I'm so glad she did as well as she did. And she's going to be one of those that's really going to sell the brand. Like she's got that charisma about her. And that was really fun to watch. And yes, I could watch her farmer carry all day for sure.
Yeah, well, Sinead and Lucy are the 2 that Gymshark picked up as their hybrid racers. Both English, both quite accomplished, obviously racers. So Sinead, how did she do overall over the weekend?
She got what, 4th, didn't she?
I should know this. I was only there all weekend.
No, we are so exhausted is the problem, is that, I hadn't brought that up either, but yeah. And then in doubles, they won until they didn't because of the penalty, right? So she dropped her sandbag and that set her back. And so the Laurens took over for that. So they got 2nd in doubles, she and Lucy, right?
Right. Which that was a surprise though, wasn't it?
Yes, I don't think we were expecting that. Even with Tia being gone, I don't think that we necessarily had those girls as close to the top as they were, for sure. So no, it's really incredible, and I think there's some really great sort of young rising stars that I think are going to continue to make the sport different as we go ahead. We didn't know who she was 3-4 months ago, right? So it's really changed that rapidly.
Well, guess what else? Speaking of rising stars, right? Joanna did her first elite race less than a year ago, and Lucy came in the last year and a half or whatever it was. So who are those next people that may have already done an open, may have won it, or are watching this weekend and going, "Oh, I'm going to go do one. I'm fast. I'm a former runner that's kind of strong." So, yeah, great news for all of us that that there's more coming, right? There's got to be more guys and gals out there. And unlike OCR, where we might get one every 2 or 3 years, I think we're going to see a few.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I think there were some people who really put on a show, and it was just really fun to see, for sure.
Do we want to talk about the sleds now, or was there another topic? I forget.
Look, I think for the most part, I think Racebrain's going to handle the elite races way better than us anyway. I did think that the yellow and red cards were kind of interesting.
Hang on a second. Hang on. Let's not use the term better, especially with Matt Mason watching.
No,
let's say
I just think
they're going to cover the elites in a more in-depth way than we are, because
they're going to at least know who was on the podium. We're so tired and we can't remember.
Listen, they have it probably nearby. I just don't have it nearby because my computer is shut and I'm dealing with a child a few feet away from me.
Yes.
Yes. I think the only other thing that I want to say is what else did I want to say about the elite races? I think that I can't even think now.
Yeah, look, I think that the judging was pretty harsh on the BBJs. I'm not really sure why they're just getting all up in their business, and that would be. I think they need to figure that out. The yellow and red cards were helpful, though. At least we knew what was going on, and so I think that was helpful. And I also think that the time penalties, where they're letting people cross into the finish line and then having them wait to see if they actually won, I think needs to be fixed.
All right,
So
let's talk
hopefully
about
that'll
that. I want to talk about that because
okay.
there were conversations that people were having this weekend about that, about what's a good way to do that. And um, because we want a winner at the finish line. We don't want to wait. We don't want to be
Yeah, it's
Spartan,
just weird.
right? So well, it's like, oh, well, you got to do it at the time. Don't give them a time penalty. You got to do it at the time, except if they run away from the judge too quickly, right? You don't want judges tackling people, right?
Right.
For
Like with
not putting a
Sinead and
for
the
not putting a ram down in DECA, or not putting the sandbag down in HYROX. So um we talked about the idea of, what if you finish your wall balls and then, or before you start your wall. No, we first said, what if before you start your wall balls, that's the penalty. But then the idea of, well, no, that's actually a rest before the wall balls.
right, that gives
So
them a benefit.
that might give them a benefit. It might not, but it might. So what is a better solution? Just having better refs that call it, and if they don't call it, you got to let it go. Other than unsportsmanlike, other than a shove, you just got to let everything else go.
I think your conversation with Matt Locke seemed to denote that Matt would probably be okay with, if the judge didn't call, say, Sinead's bag drop at the time, we're just out of luck, right? They got away with it, right? And so I think there might be precedent for that they may just decide on that. But if you did want to assess a time penalty, which I think is better and a little more fair in some ways, put the box right after the wall balls. Have them finish the wall balls and have them wait there until it's time to cross.
Right. And I don't know if there's precedent in other sports, if people watching know, like, oh, there's a running sport where you do that, where there's a penalty box of some kind. But I think at a race that's based on speed and everything is going too fast, I think, yeah, you call it. And if the judge doesn't call it, oh, well, except for knocking the guy into a fence, right? We used to say, just in case of unsportsmanlike conduct. Now we've seen what that looks like. So, yeah, I think you got to let it go. But you and I both couldn't figure out, we were told one person per wall ball. They couldn't even get one person per sled pull. I'm watching a relay race and an Elite 15 doubles where you're telling me you can't find 15 judges, or maybe 25 judges, because you need to send the next 10 down because
Yeah.
people are going to be finishing. And so you're having two people watch people pull sleds from behind. You can't tell if they're stepping on the fucking front line or not,
Yep.
right?
Watch two people in a bad perspective, and so unable to see what's going on. And so that's why I would say, until they've got the judging really nailed down, I would prefer it not be just up to the judges, and then people can get away with stuff if they can fly under the radar. So
All right, so they do it in triathlon, and probably other sports. But yeah, to me, it was like, okay, guys, this is our big stage that we've all been talking about. Let's get judging nailed. Let's get really good judges. And I do think they picked the best of the bunch. I mean, I remember thinking, at the start of the race, like even before the TV cameras are rolling, I see 4 or 5 white shirts with their hands behind their backs, ready to serve, like looking professional, but up that number. Get people out from wherever you got to get them. Get people out from the reg table, or where, I know they're not regging at World Champs that late, but you know what I'm saying. Get
well, I
enough.
do. And I will say, my husband, he's judged elite, and was a head judge regularly and applied to judge this time. And because they had applications for head judges, and they accepted him for that. But it was very clear that HYROX was taking nobody from the judges pool to judge. I think they got either employees or somebody who's kind of on the inside. They were very, very tight to the chest about who they allowed to judge elite. And that's why I'm very surprised that the judging went as poorly as it did. Because I think
So you have a judge who not only does a great job, but looks pretty menacing and would scare people into doing the right thing. And
especially
he was there all week and was told no.
right. Yeah, he was told no. And everybody was like, they got on that general call and they were like, don't even ask. We've already got people. So they had it very, very insider. They were very, very close to the chest as far as
you gotta charge it though, buddy. It might not have any juice.
And yes, I agree, Dustin, that Till should probably learn the athletes' names. I found that to be very insulting. And I just, that guy, and he would stick with narratives that he would not let go of the narrative that he had about Lauren Weeks or about, Hunter or something like that. He wasn't even paying attention to the race. And I found that really, really frustrating. But yeah, so I'm not really sure who they got, but it wasn't anybody who was
Stop
they could have
talking to
gotten a
me.
lot qualified. Matt, can you mute yourself or yeah, so
I'm really sorry. I'm having a hard time here. There's a
that's
lot
okay.
going on.
I know what it's like to be a parent. Definitely.
Yeah. Is it working, buddy? Um, I have 3 children. I'm an old man. I can't do 2 things at once.
It's not easy. Kids are going to be kids.
Hey, you know what really helps if you're an old man?
What?
Sleep masks.
Tell me about them.
Well, I was at a delicious breakfast with Matt and Cheryl. Sorry, with
Jake and Cheryl, an elderly couple.
an elderly couple. We were talking about our Metamucil and our jazzercise classes and all the things elderly people talk about. And the idea of not sleeping through the night. And you said, Matt, have you heard of a sleep mask? And I was like, I've never done that. And you were like, game changer. And I said, you guys were both so enthusiastic that I immediately said, what's the brand? And I went on Amazon and ordered it to my hotel room because we live in the future and you can do that. And I then forgot to get it every night because I unplugged my
Really
phone
easy.
because I was using that for a charger. And they probably called me and left a message, but who uses the phone at a hotel anymore? So then I used it and it definitely helped. And then the reason I really know it helped is I took an afternoon nap today and this room is rather bright. We have a beautiful, see that door?
Yes.
It's beautiful to wake up to birds chirping and whatnot. But if you want to take a daytime nap, it's hard. And I napped for an hour. I can usually sleep about 30 minutes and my body wakes itself up. I napped for an hour with that thing on today and it's comfy. You don't notice it. And there's science behind sensory deprivation, right? There's science behind it. It's why you swaddle babies, right? You just restrict everything you can. You know what I mean? And so
Yes.
when you take that away, it just shuts your brain down in a different fucking way. And like you guys were saying, light is still getting to your eyes even when you think it isn't. So I'm a big believer.
Yes. Good. I'm glad you feel that way. It was a game changer. So yeah, it's the Manta mask that all the athletes are using right now. So
Oh, the athletes are using it too?
well, I learned it. I learned about it from a post by a fellow named Rich Ryan. Camilla Moss has got one.
Well, then I'm not giving news to anybody. I'm late to the party.
So you are definitely. I thought you were on Instagram. I thought you knew about these things. So yeah, no, they're great. They're really great. So yeah, the Manta masks really work.
One Samantha Moose Faddis says, well, you're gonna have to read it because I can
Okay,
either
I'll read
put it up or I
Okay.
can read it. I can't do both.
Okay, the judging of the farmers carry during the relay was awful. They weren't paying attention at all. We watched 4 athletes run in and run straight past the kettlebells, not knowing where to go. Yes.
So I do remember, I forget. I was gonna say I don't know if it was the man's or the woman's doubles that happened. I think because there was a woman standing there like to sort of block the people, but she wasn't really paying, and so they ran right past her, and Matt Locke or somebody else like showed her like, do I'm not using my legs, do this, like stand there like this so they can't go past you. And then Rylan fucked up though. He admitted that to me. He forgot you didn't go all the way around the second time. You only went a half, I guess. So that was his thing. But Matt Mason, big commenter today, said they directed Viola the wrong way twice.
Yeah, it just felt like, I don't know. Did they train him? Did everybody know what was going on? I don't know. It was just interesting that they could have had a great pool of a lot of people and given everybody just one tiny job, and then it would have run a lot better. And I think there were a lot of really enthusiastic Americans who wanted to be involved and were just shut out of the process.
Yeah, I would ask Matt Do you think I'll get an answer? Well, actually, he wouldn't be the one. Who's the head of head judges?
Who are you asking about?
You. Like, who would I ask that question to? Why would you not accept all the help you can get?
Yeah, that's a good question because usually it's Yusuf who has always been over the judges here in the U.S., but there was a different guy who was the head of the judges, and he didn't.
First of all, volunteers, period, are hard to get, right?
Yes.
And obviously, head judges, you're going to scrutinize a little bit more. But if you ran a race and you needed 100 volunteers and you had 200 sign up, and the 201st person said, "You need more help," I would say absolutely. Because you never say no to a volunteer. If they're not good or you can't use them, you can send them away. But you're going to have no shows. You never know what you're going to need. So to say no to people who are actually qualified, like, like your husband, like Matt Mason, who's saying, I'm sure there were other people that wanted to judge that didn't get a chance to. That's bizarre.
Yeah, it was very strange. And I think that, look, and we can talk about the judging for the age groupers and how poor that was in a lot of ways.
Well, most people saw Janelle's video. I think Chris shared one as well, and I know some
Yes.
other people did. They somehow decided the answer to not enough depth was then to penalize everybody, even if they did get depth. What is going on? What is going on?
Here's what I think is going on. I think that they wanted strict wall ball judging because of all of the flack that they're getting for that. And they still have these temporary workers. I know my judge, who I got to know real well because I was there a really long time. She is not your typical like CrossFit athlete. Like, I don't think she's ever seen a gym. She just isn't, she doesn't fit the profile, right? So she's there working a temp part-time job. And she they were clearly trained to be very, very strict, but it seems that they misunderstood what depth meant. And I think they
maybe they thought her butt literally needed to touch the ground.
They at least lower, because look, here's Janelle Teal and then here's Samantha Faddis, right? They're right next to each other. And just because of the femur length and the leg length, that Samantha's getting nice and low and getting to full depth. Like, her hip crease is below her knees, but when that happens, her backside is also nearly to the ground. And so it looks really good. Janelle's doing the exact same thing, but because her legs are so long, these women were looking for how low the butt was instead of the hip crease below the knee. Somebody had trained them to do that. And I've had several people talk to me about how they were getting no repped all over the place about this.
You're telling me with 6,000 athletes and their loved ones, you couldn't get all stars? I'm sorry, dude. I was saying just 25 for the elites, right?
Yes.
I think for the entire day, you should have been able to get some really good volunteers if you know what you're doing, right? You look at who's volunteered in the past, you look at local gyms, you go fucking all out, do all the things you didn't have time to do during the year to get world champs right.
Yes.
How many gyms would you have to email HYROX gyms that go, if you can give me 10 great judges, we'll give you 5 free tickets or whatever, right?
Yes.
A free advertisement, something, right?
Yeah.
Like, come on, dudes. In Chicago area, I mean, right? You could probably get them as far as Milwaukee, but you know what I'm saying? Come on.
Yeah, there was no real call for volunteers. There really wasn't, which I was very, very surprised about. And so not only were people getting called for lack of depth, which was not actually a thing, but Pam Fox came up to us. She was there after my race when I was recovering and medical was checking on me. And she got called, she got no repped for not standing up fully extended on her wall balls, which is absolutely not part of the situation. What they were completely untrained. They didn't know what they were even looking for when it comes to this.
Well, and again, this is why you have a head judge or 2 or 3 or 5 walking around who certainly in the time Janelle got all those no reps, somebody could have come over and said, it's okay. Like, let's fix this. You know what I mean? Like, right. So
yeah, I had a double my former doubles partner, Kim Cole, she was racing with somebody else and had to call over a head judge to say, will you watch this? And the head judge then corrected her. But do we have to do that in the middle of a race? Like, I just think that's asking a lot.
No, I think Janelle was like, I'm just gonna get it done.
Yeah, no, you do. You just
I
buckle in.
certainly would have eventually said something.
Right.
Because I would have just been like, this just isn't, it's not right.
I think that look, what I'm seeing a lot of on the chatter after the weekend, and it could just be fatigue, because I will say I stick by my original description about this weekend, overwhelming, right? It was a lot, but a lot of people are just really frustrated, right? Not just with the wall, the judging, where a lot of people were really frustrated. They were just trying to finish their race, and there was not a bucket to be seen in that venue. It's not even like you could ask for a bucket. There wasn't a bucket, and we were all expected to go to depth, and I think we were all ready to, and yet you have people still calling you out. That is absolutely exhausting when that kind of thing happens. So there's that, but then you pile on top of it the sleds, and there are people who have just absolutely had it, right? They're just so frustrated that they're training for a race that then they just get undermined by minutia like that makes it less of a good experience.
Well, let's read the statement, which I now can't find. Where's the
I have
statement? Where's the sled statement?
I have it. I can read it to you.
I know, but I want to know where it is.
Oh, it's on HYROX World.
I just went to HYROX World. There's workout of the week. There's day 4. There's someone who, there's the end of the event. World champion, world champion, world champion, world champion, world champion, world champion. I do not see it.
You don't see it.
I found it 20 things later. Here we go.
Okay.
All right. Sled turf statement. Since we founded HYROX, we were trying to build the best possible sport for everyone. 7 years ago, it was just a few of you, and now over 600,000. We always said, hearing the feedback loud and clear, not a day goes by without us thinking about how to get better and optimize the sport. The sled stations have been the most controversial from HYROX since day one. In order to create more global consistency, we invested in a new surface situation. We invested into a new surface solution, the turf, for a better consistency across the station. I'm now going to say something I didn't notice before, and that is there are dashes there. Dashes are you absolutely use AI to write this. I use AI every day. I make sure it takes out the dashes because it looks like you didn't fix it enough. The solution for turf for a better consistency across the stations. To be very clear, it worked. Excuse me? From a surfer's perspective, we've reached the goal of more consistency. Okay? Remember that. The second is the sleds. As you all know, depending on the usage of the sleds, they can be moved better or worse. But with the turf, we can control the range of resistance much better. I don't know that I can read this much more. I mean, what are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about?
Okay.
So let's go with number 1.
Okay.
6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, guess what we're gonna do at the World Championships? Unleash the sleds. Oh no, we've tested them. And how do I know they didn't ever test them at a race? Because the elites weren't even allowed to be on them for more than 30 minutes before their race. And if they took any pictures, they would have ended the testing session. So rather than test them at New York or Berlin or anywhere, they tested it in what? A sterilized environment and said, I guess they work? Cheryl, come on.
Right. I'm looking at the statement from Mo. Is that because that's different from what you're reading? You're reading a HYROX statement, and this is the one from Mo that's a lot shorter. That just about how we acknowledge that the sled stations have always been. So this is just a shorter piece of that, I guess.
That's the final slide. If you go back,
there's not an acceptable circumstance for us. The thing that really strikes me about this is that they are only talking about the sleds. They're not actually, they're blaming the sleds, not the turf. That's what it sounds like to me. I mean, look at what they said. So here's what happened on the weekend, right? Things were rough Friday. things got really, really heated on Saturday. People were starting to post. People were starting to, to show what was going on. And now we have it everywhere where people aren't moving sleds. I had the worst sled experience of my life. It was absolute carnage out there. It was horrible. And let me just say, Matt, I was racing. You see me at the ski and you're like all excited. And I know my run hasn't gone well, right? And you're starting to yell at me about the ski. And I'm already skiing like eight, you know, 8 seconds slower than I usually do for a 500 meter. And I'm knowing my race isn't going great, but I'm like, I'm going to try to pick it up, do that second run. I get to my sled and I watch my whole race fall apart, right? Like it completely obliterated. Like I was one of those that did it, right? And so here's what happened. I'm sort of dealing with that, and it wrecked my weekend, and it wrecked a lot of people's weekends. My husband, who did get to be a judge, just not an elite judge, he had been ski erg the first 2 days, which I will just point out to everybody, if you're trying to jump on ski ergs, you're going to get penalized. Quit jumping on the ski ergs. That's what he was getting people in trouble for all the time because it breaks the machines. So he's ski erg the first 2 days, and then he's going to be on sled pull the last day he's there. He gets to sled pull. There are too many volunteers. He says, hey, does sled push need any? And they said yes. And so he goes over to sled push. Here's what he found out when he was there is Saturday night after the elite doubles, they took out all the sleds and put new sleds in. And the word on the street is, the people he was talking to there, is that they have no idea what's happening. They cannot figure out if it's a sled issue, if it's a humidity issue, if it's a bodily fluids issue on the turf. Like they have literally no idea what's going on. They got completely blindsided by the situation. But Sunday, the sleds moved, right? My friend Andrea, who you met, she said that they actually had the race they were hoping for. They had a good experience. The sleds were nice and heavy, but at least they moved, right? And so there was talk at the sled push by people there that HYROX is going to be hiring an engineering firm to figure out what the heck's going on. I don't think that they're abandoning the turf at all. I think that they're just going to figure out what the problem is.
They just got a giant check from Center and announced to the world that we're working with Center and they've designed this, and you can have this turf in your own gym. So they're definitely not going to ditch that. What was I going to say? I spoke with one Greg Lufton. Do you know who he is? He's the other half of Emmy Cross.
Okay.
He has done extensive research. He is an engineer. He was trying to help because he's in the DC area, as is Megiddo. And much like your husband being told no, he was told no.
Yeah, what the heck, right?
So I was going to have him on this call, and then I thought, dude, we could spend 2 hours on the science he's already done.
Yeah.
Because he talked about all those things you mentioned, right? Sweat, wear and tear, floor.
Yeah. It was definitely
et cetera.
a friction issue. Like I can tell what a heavy sled is. It wasn't about that. It was definitely a friction issue.
It was, we watched people push it one way and it'd be harder than pulling it back the other way. I do think we could look at the Elite 15 and see where it mattered and where it didn't. Like if you
I think
got
it absolutely mattered in the women's doubles.
Marcus pushed his like glass, right? And was like given the crowd come on, what's up thing. And it's like, I guess I would do that too if I just outpushed everybody in the push. But but it was pretty obvious. It was the same. Watching him push it was watching the video everyone saw where whatever his name is out there was like yelling at a judge and then runs over there. It was so beautiful just to watch him. You couldn't have scripted it any better that whoever filmed him watched him run over there and push the second one and let it go.
Yeah.
I think sleds at different races we know might be different, but wow, was that one? I mean, across the same race, they have to be consistent.
That's the thing, is it was just infuriating for me to see all of my
Oh,
competitors.
sorry. Let me finish my thought. So he's going to be on next week. Sorry, I just didn't have him on this week. He's on next week. We're going to spend a lot
Excellent.
more.
Excellent. No, I think we're going to want to hear that, because
Yeah.
look, they've got to fix it. I've got people, and I shared with you Janet Goopser's manifesto about how frustrated she is with HYROX and how she's out for a while. Like she's just not going to deal with it, because we pay for consistency. We pay for a certain experience at a race. And if you're now just going to give us obstacles that we can't prepare for, and then, miscount our wall balls just because you don't know what the heck's going on, that's a huge problem, right?
Well, I think that's really the question, right? Is in Spartan, we saw it every week, oh my God, this is my last Spartan race. And then that same person would complain a month later and they're still signing up. So how many Janet Goopsers are there out there? I don't know, right? I think some of the UK people, maybe they were dumb or done anyway this season. I think people are still going to sign up. But it's what I always talk about with the Spartan thing, is that you've now taken a big chunk out of the trust bank, okay? You've taken a big withdrawal out of the trust bank. And we don't forget that. So when the next thing happens, it's like they don't give a shit, right? So they've now eroded that trust. And here's what I think, okay? Actually, I asked chat. I'm lying. I said, chat, what would you do in the situation? And they said some really smart things, okay? They're really smart, the smartest things. I wouldn't. And they said this. I just said, here's the announcement. I didn't describe it. I just said there was issues with the sleds. Here's what HYROX said. How would you handle it different? First thing, maybe not the first thing. One of the things, I would not hide behind 4 slides. Chat said that. I didn't say they're hiding. I just said here's what they did. I would put out the information, followed with a live Q&A where I took all the hard questions, I took all the hard answers, and faced the consequences, right? Like, that's smart, right? Number 2, refunds or partial refunds for those affected. And I think that's a great one, or at least a free race, right? Hey, send us your screenshots of your sled times. And if it was bad, we'll hook you up, right? What do you think about that?
Counselors on site. I just felt like I just needed someone to talk to about the trauma. I just felt like it was
What about me? Wasn't I your grief counselor?
Of course you were, but just some hired professionals for people who don't have Mappy data.
But seriously, what do you think about that? What if they had come out and said, not only are we really sorry, which is what that thing is, and it's part of it, it's half the, they got it half right. They didn't ignore it. But yes. What about, hey, we want to make it up to you some way? And again, that puts a little trust back in the bank. What do you think if they had said that? We'll give you some money back, or a new race or something. What about that?
I think that would help to just kind of, because I was thinking, bless you, grief counselors and reparations, right? Like something to sort of acknowledge that we didn't get the experience we wanted to. Now, look, luckily for me, I knew I wasn't going to have my best race, but there were people gunning for podiums that didn't get it, right? And I just think they are feeling really cheated, because this was their big race. This was their A race, and they got cheated just because they went to a different lane. Yeah, reparations, some sort of discount, some sort of something to give them a chance to feel like, look, these world's competitors are their most loyal customers. They should be treating us somehow better. If they're going to experiment on us by giving us a new product during Worlds, then make reparations when it doesn't go well.
I just can't believe, again, if they knew it ahead of time, do you think it wasn't ready? They were like, oh, we can't ship it? Or let's just start next season. And then it's like, hey, I went to qualify and I didn't get a good time, but at least it's not, you fucked up my whole world championship. You fucked up my whole year. No, so yeah, we all were saying it. It's not like, oh, it's easy to say now. No, we were all saying nothing new on race day, don't do it. And they foolishly did it.
I have to wonder if somebody was just that confident in the product. You know what I mean? Where they were just like, what could possibly go wrong? And I really do think it.
I don't know. I just watched a documentary about a guy who said there's no way I'm going to let anybody die on this submersible. So, you know what I mean? He was extremely confident in his own skills, and guess what?
Yeah.
Is it too
Well,
soon to make jokes? Is it too soon to make submersible jokes?
too soon. Yeah.
It's a really good documentary. I started the Pee Wee one second. You and I talked about the Pee Wee one. We went back to watch Pee Wee later, but just watch the submersible one, guys. It's really good.
Okay. All right. That's good. That'll be good. So
He also, I have to say, he also reminds me a lot of Joe DeSena. And if you watch it, you'll see what I mean. But
okay.
it's very interesting.
Well, it's interesting because, I'm looking at Janet Goopser's comments to me, and she says she's talking about how DECA came along after Spartan and it was standardized. She's saying your time in Anaheim can be compared to my time in Charlotte. Station 5 is always between, stations 4 and 6. There's no talk of fast courses and that sort of thing. And she says, look, HYROX can be prohibitively expensive and claims to be standardized, but it is far from it, right? And we all know this is the case. Gabe Heck posting a video of his sled and how horribly it went. And he's like, well, I guess next season I'm just going to start shopping for fast courses. And there's just something fundamentally wrong with the system that somehow DECA has figured out, and they haven't. I will also shout out DECA for congratulating the Elite 15 athletes on their podiums in HYROX. I thought that was a really classy move. So I do think there are some things that, HYROX just needs to fix, or else people are getting tired of spending the money and not having the experience that they're paying for. I think that's probably the worst. So, yeah. I don't know. Matt's gone right now. Does anybody have anything to say?
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I'm getting texts from important sources and finding out if I can say something. Okay. Just got a statement from a source that I trust 100%. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you see me?
No, but that's okay. Just as long as you're talking.
HYROX wants to sell that new carpet to gyms, and by showcasing at World Championships, they can start selling it immediately. Except, are they going to sell it immediately when everybody hated it? Right? They thought that's what they were going to do. But I think that makes sense. Again, you could have started selling it. You still could have done it after the first race. You could just as much marketing behind it. Again, it's just a really bad idea. Even if it had gone perfectly, it's a bad idea. You got lucky if it went perfectly.
Yes. And yet it remains that it does seem to be a sled issue, right? Because it depended on the sled you got and whether or not it was banged up. And the fact that they changed out all the sleds and then it worked fine. Because Sunday was a good day.
But didn't you also see video of them stretching it out?
I don't think so. I don't remember that.
Jen Stagnoli is going to cancel her order.
That's it. Yeah. No, I didn't see him stretching it out. I know that my husband said he got there and people were poised and ready to film disastrous sled pushes on Sunday, and they just weren't getting the footage because it happened to work. Everybody was.
But did you see how in by doubles they closed down the first 4 lanes?
Right. Yeah, because I think they were worried about that section.
But the middle ones were the middlest ones were the fastest, right?
Right. Okay.
So if you had gone in 7th or 8th, you'd still be here. You might be on the podium.
Don't even talk to me about that. I wasn't going to be on the podium regardless, but I was hoping for top 10 at least. So yeah, it's just.
Do you want to talk about your race?
I don't have much to say except that life happens and you just don't go in 100%. I will layer this on with. I know that there was a lot of talk about the Elite 15 races and how some of the athletes. A lot of people were questioning the volume that a lot of the athletes were doing going in to these races, and that it may have blown them up. I know that there are some programs that are more voluminous than others and that sort of thing. And I'm not even that much on such a high volume program, but I feel like I blew up this past few months. Like it's just been tough. And so, yeah, my race didn't go great. So I guess if I'm going to have a disastrous sled, it should also be with the fact that I wasn't really ready to podium in the first place, right?
Well, I think you and I are close enough. We can talk about kind of our experience that whole. I'd like to talk about it. I think actually. So, and I know you're okay with whatever I'm going to say, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I wanted to, I messaged a bunch of people when you're racing, and I didn't make anybody's. I'm sorry. I want to watch Jack Bauer. I wanted to watch a lot of different people, but there was no way I was going to miss yours. And so I got down there, and Rich is down there, and Jacob is down there. So Rich Ryan's your coach, Jacob is your husband, and you get to the ski, and you're shaking your head. And I was like trying to be a good friend, and I was just like, "Come on, you can do this." And then you kept shaking your head, and I was like, "Stop shaking your head. You got to represent the podcast." And you said either "Shut up, Matt," or "Shut up." And I was like, "I am giving. I okay."
I don't
So
remember doing that. I do
no,
not remember saying "shut up."
well, when I saw you later, I think you did say that you said that, but basically I then asked your husband, because again, I like a certain kind too. Like if I'm struggling, some people go like military way, and that's not for me, right? If I'm struggling on wall balls, don't be Goggins. Give me some love. You can do this. Not you're a pussy. But some people love that. Some people love like, don't be a bitch. Like, not really for me, right? So I said to your husband, what can I say to her? He said, I would say nothing. And I was like, well, he knows you best. He goes, just smile, right? And so the next two laps, that's all we did was smile. And then he said, and then one of the times he said, "We love you." I said, "Oh, I can say that." He said, "Yes, you can say that." And he said, "Oh, now she's catching people. Now she's coming out of it a little bit, right?"
I was
So
starting to pick some people off. Yeah.
what's that?
I was starting to pick some people
So
off. And that
what
okay.
I want to know, this is where we can all learn something, or I just think it's good for us all to hear the experience, because we've all gone there. We've all gone from, a lot of times it's on you finish the ski and you're like, I love this race. This is amazing. This isn't so hard. And then
Right.
after the pull, you're like, this is the dumbest thing ever. So for you, it was switched. Tell me where you went mentally and how you started picking people off, even with a quote unquote horrible sled.
So yeah, horrible sleds. And after that sled pull, I mean, not only were we just having issues with moving the sleds, and my sled push was an absolute, it was just shocking, that experience. Get the sled pull done, and I had run out of chalk on my hands, but I was like kind of halfway done with the last length. And so I just slipped that stupid rope through my hands just to get it done. And it was just awful. It was just barely got it done. And I'm leaving there, and I honestly thought at that last part of that sled pull, this is stupid. I'm going to quit. Like, I'm not
Right.
having any fun. I don't want to do this. And I did mention on that reel that you posted that absolutely there were so many people out there like shouting my name and cheering for me. And I thought, I'm going to look like an idiot if I quit, right? Like that, I cannot quit on these people. Like that's going to be horrible. But the other thing that happened was that by then I'm kind of mid-pack, back of the pack, right? Like things had gone really poorly those first few stations. I could tell my running just wasn't there. I was feeling flat. I just couldn't get the power. I was not being able to keep up. And then those first three stations they just obliterated me. And so I'm out there finishing that sled pull, and I'm looking around at the women that are still there with me. And those are the women that I seldom see, right? Usually I'm up ahead, just like going, right? And I'm just getting the work done. And I'm not seeing the women who are probably going to be out there for close to 2 hours by the time their day is done. And I thought, they're not quitting. Like what kind of a idiot am I going to be if I quit and they don't quit, right? Like that's the saddest thing, to let them work infinitely harder than I'm ever going to work. Those women work hard. They grind. And it is so much harder and so much less fun when you don't have the fitness. And they stayed. And I thought, I can't quit because I'm going to look just horrible compared to them. And so they kept me out there too. Like there were just two sides of it where I couldn't quit on you. Like you had gone through the trouble to come see me. You were cheering me on. And yes, my husband in training lately, he used to be this kind of, hey, go. And lately I've just been like, look, I feel terrible. Just leave me alone. Let me get this done. And so he knew that's kind of where I've been, just health-wise, things haven't been good. But having you guys out there, I couldn't quit on you, and I couldn't quit on the women I was with. That's really what it was. And what I have learned about this experience is this community rewards hard work. Like winning's fun, but this community rewards hard work. And you just got to keep working. It's going to be fine.
Well, I want to say that your husband's awesome.
Yeah.
And he's the definition of a rock. He's just fucking solid, just a
Yeah.
solid dude. I can see why you married him, and I really like him. And we got to talk about your wall balls because
Yes.
I'm watching you do wall balls, and you go down to your hands and knees, which I've been known to lay down mid deca strong. That's me, right?
Yeah.
But I am legit worried because it happened, I think, twice, and the second time, um, I don't know if people know this, but I don't get as much as access I would like. Like I'm not really loud on the floor like ever. In the old days when there wasn't many people, I could literally film your whole race, right? These days they really don't want people. Even just to let people know, during the live stream, they were like, the only place you can go is warm up and finish.
They're very careful.
There was a photographer this big, this little woman who was trying to get in to shoot one of the zones. And I was like, oh, who do you work for? She's like, Puma. So even Puma, like they really don't let you go anywhere. So
Right.
Cheryl goes down her knees the second time, and I almost risk my access to all of HYROX because I was gonna run out there and go, "Are you okay?" So I told you next time you can tell people what actually was happening. Next time you get on your hands and knees, just turn around and yell, "I'm okay," so I don't have to come save you.
When you're in the middle of something, you kind of don't realize how it looks, right? Here was my strategy. I go sauntering into wall balls and I'm like, this is the last thing I ever want to do in my life. Like, this is the stupidest thing. I just want to get this over with. And now I've got to do these wall balls in front of these people. And so I decide, all right, I'm going to do the 16, 15, 14, 13. You know, that strategy where if you do 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, that's 100, right? So you just take it in little segments. I do my first 16 and then I drop the ball, allow myself to rest. And I'm getting ready to do my next 15. I think I get those 15 done, or at least close to the 15 done. But by this point, when I had come into the wall balls, I said to her, is there chalk? And she said, no, there was no chalk anywhere in that venue, right? There wasn't a bucket to sit on. They had no buckets for people to, hit depth. And there were no buckets of chalk. There was nothing to be able to dry my hands.
Has anybody asked about that? Did anybody ask a judge about that? What is up with that?
Yeah, I don't know. And there were stuff on the judges chat about them running out of chalk halfway through the day in some areas. Like there was no chalk some places. And so I don't know, skimping on chalk, I'm not quite sure what's going on with that. But by the time you get to wall balls, you're generally soaking wet. And I have a really hard time holding that then you start no repping, right? Because you can't hold on to it. So I get the 15 done, and then I realize, okay, this is going to start going poorly because the ball's slipping. I'm not able to hit target. And so I make a decision. All right, I'm going to go to 10s and I'm going to do 10, and then I'm going to do 10 breaths, 10 breaths, and we're just going to get this done however long it takes. But my hands are soaking wet. So I look down and the floor is that turf, right? It's that same turf that they've got for the sleds where if I put my hands down on it, I can dry my hands since there isn't any chalk because my clothes are soaking wet. So I decide I'm going to take 10 breaths and then do 10 reps, 10 breaths, 10 reps. And so I go down on hands and knees to dry my hands. I don't realize it looks like I'm probably having a seizure. Like it doesn't even occur to me that anybody thinks that I'm probably having some sort of cardiac event or something terrible is going on. I'm just drying my hands, right?
Right. It didn't, but from where I was, it did not look good.
No, and my husband said the same thing. He was like, what's going on? And so I finally crossed the finish line and you're coming up to me. You at least can come to the warm-up area. And so you're like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. Like I'm humiliated, but I'm fine. And here comes medical. Are you okay? Like they thought that I needed to be like wheeled off in a stretcher because of what I had been doing. And I had no idea that it looked as bad as it did. So just note to self, like if you're really suffering through wall balls, don't make it look like you need an IV drip, by the time it's over. Like maybe, yeah, they just need to get some chalk out there. Or I don't know, maybe I need to start bringing a towel or something because it's an issue. I'm not sure why HYROX doesn't think that we are super sweaty and that's going to be a problem.
Well, again, these are the things that we think you could fucking nail on World Championship Day. More than enough buckets, more than enough judges. I mean, more than enough chalk, more than enough buckets. These are things that right?
Look, we started with a world-class experience. The shirt, the packet, the whole thing, like, welcome, you're here.
You got a You got a free one of
Yeah,
these, which I've been sleeping with.
Yeah, look, they're parading us in like all this stuff. And then when it comes down to the actual race, yeah, things kind of fell apart and it was frustrating. And I think by then the fatigue sets in and you start having people giving manifestos about how, yeah, I'm not sure I'm in for this. Like this is not as fun as I remember it being. I think I agree with you. We'll all calm down and we'll be back at the races. When they release the Anaheim or Chicago tickets, we're all over it. But
Well, and now we've got Phoenix in a stadium, which you and I are going to do. We said, right?
I think that'll be really fun. Yeah, we got to try that.
Okay, Phoenix Stadium for sure. And then
Yeah.
we're hearing these rumors of what, San Francisco and one other place?
Boston. What else are we hearing?
Yeah, are you hearing anything in the chat? Let us know.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, but so last night I was up sort of wallowing in my own self-pity and just frustrated by my current physical status. And I thought I'm going to look up the HYROX website and just kind of think about what my plans are, right? Like what does my race calendar look like going forward? There are 3 races in the United States posted right now. That's it. And you can't get tickets for any of them. Like we have nothing. We have nothing to look forward to. Like it's Dallas. What is it? Dallas, Anaheim, and Chicago is the only thing they're on here for the United States right now.
Yeah, I don't know what the logic is behind opening things, especially now that they sell out. Like it used to be like, oh, if we put Dallas on, we won't sell Chicago or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
I want to say that I do like the Navy Pier. I was over the Navy Pier when by the time, Saturday afternoon, I was like, okay, I'm ready to get on a plane Sunday morning. I haven't even talked about my travel day. I know people love my travel woes. So
can we talk about the Sable too? Just how nice that was to be able to just.
I'm gonna talk about how nice the Sable is, but first of all, you stay in the Sable because it's connected to the building. Like you're literally come downstairs and there's the venue. However, in this case, we found you didn't even have to go downstairs. It was literally right there next to our room, basically.
Yes.
If you wanted to come in the backside through the wall balls, if you want to go to the front side, you had to go through the reg and then you had to go to the merch store, through the warm up and through the whole
You had
thing.
to go all the way down to the end of the pier and then turn and go in. Whereas
Right.
if you were at the Sable, you could take the elevator down. So I have a story for you.
Okay.
So my husband and I get in the elevator to head down to that second floor where you can take the creepy hallway down to the venue, to all the other, the warm up area and all that kind of stuff, where you don't even have to run that gauntlet and go outside. And Alondra Greeley gets in the elevator with us, and she's all, "Do you know, is there an easier way to get to the warm up area?" And I'm like, "Yeah, go to this. Let's get you to the second floor." And you go out the second floor, and then you go through those metal doors there. And you'll be able, you just keep going. It doesn't look like anything, but if you keep going, you'll get there. And she just looks at us and she says, "Is this a trap? Like, are you saying?" I haven't seen her since. So I don't know. Maybe she didn't come out, but I thought we were sending her in a good direction. But it was really a cool play. It was a really cool way people got to where they sort of knew all the ins and outs and the nooks and crannies. That was kind of cool.
But you and I talked about whether it was worth the investment because the closer, right? And
yes,
I've done the math now. Every time I travel to a city, is if I have to Uber back and forth, that's going to cost the same as whatever the extra of the room is anyway. So I may as well stay the closer room, right? Now, the Sable's so expensive that even if you Ubered a bunch, it's still more than that, right? But I was like, fuck it. It's the world champs. I'm going to want to be close to my room. And I really am glad I did. I was able to nap on the daily, right? And these are long days and long nights. I need my naps, right?
get back and forth. Quickly.
So I decided I was supposed to go home. My initial ticket was Sunday at the end of the day because I thought relays would be Sunday morning and I'll go home. Then they change it. Relays aren't until, they switched relays. And I still didn't change my ticket. I don't know why. I just thought, oh, maybe I'll get more interviews Sunday morning. Saturday midday, I'm like, what am I thinking? Tomorrow's Father's Day. I want to get the fuck out of here. I've been here since Wednesday. If I'd gotten there Thursday, the day the races started, I wouldn't have been as over it. But I was there since early Wednesday. I'm going to, even if I have to pay some money, I'm going to leave early tomorrow. I get up at 4 in the morning to use the bathroom, and I usually don't do this, but I happen to look at my phone, and my phone said, "Your flight has been canceled. Here's your new flight." And it was 6 p.m. that night. And I was like, like what? Like I'm half asleep.
Right. Happy Father's Day.
Right. And I can't figure it out because all the rest of the flights that are available are now routed through either Detroit or Minneapolis, which makes
Okay.
no sense. There's always one ways to Atlanta, right?
Mhm.
Like what is happening, right?
Right.
So and again, I'm tired and I don't want to make a bad decision. So I go back to sleep for a few hours and I wake up and it's still the same thing. So I'm like, okay, I'll just pick the one that gets me home a little bit earlier. Um, I'll pick the one that's like, I forget what it was, but I got home basically at 4 o'clock. And I'm like, and then I thought about it. I'm like, I'm gonna spend half the day on a plane or waiting to get on another plane. It's a 2 hour fucking flight. This is insane, right? So I go to Southwest and I'm like, I'm just gonna fly Southwest. I'm sure I
Mm.
can get on a plane and I can use this and I can get a refund from Delta, or I can use it for another flight for Delta because I fly a lot of places. So that's what I ended up doing. And
Nice.
I flew Southwest, which is a very different experience than flying Delta. And I got home and I was so happy to be home. Um, so I don't know who Jesus is, but he's saying we will be surprised by all the places. And I want to know what your real name is, because I don't believe you.
You know what? I
Can you
think
tell by the
last
picture
year,
who that is?
no, I can't. Last year, I remember right after Worlds, they made a ton of announcements, and I'm hoping this week they're going to generate excitement. You know, the post Worlds letdown will be replaced by all the US dates coming out. Like that would be really cool
Oh,
if we start to get a lot of stuff.
right. So, and I still don't know why, by the way, all of the flights were all the one-way
I
flights
was gonna ask you.
from Chicago. I still don't know.
All I know is that you texted me and said you're going to be in charge of watching all the adaptive heats going through because you were out. So I
Yes.
was
So,
glad you were able to get it. Yeah.
so you were able to watch some Friends on Sunday.
Yes, I watched some doubles before I left. Yeah, my flight left early.
So do you want to tell people what I showed you when we went to coffee? What I showed you on my laptop?
What did you show me on? What about how you stepped on your laptop and you already broke it? That part? The third or fourth laptop this year? Is that the part you want me to
Why are
tell?
you exaggerating? A few short months ago, I ran over my laptop and it was
Okay.
$900 to fix. And so I thought, fuck that, I'll just buy a new one. So I
Yeah.
bought a new one. Okay. And I opened the screen on Saturday morning and it was not completely cracked like when I ran over it, but it was about 5 or 6 bars on the right that look like, right?
It's like stripes where the graphics no longer work.
Correct.
Yes.
And I couldn't remember what happened. And then I vaguely remembered, I think I woke up and like opened the shades or closed the shades, but barely stepped on it. Like I didn't hear a crunch, right? Like I would have, known it, right? But here's the great news. The place that fixes my computers, which used to be the place that just fixed all my phones that my kids would break, was like, "Oh, you have Apple Care, right?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I do. I forgot about that. Like I forgot that I paid the extra for the Apple Care." They're like, "We think it's only $100 then. Like just kind of their basic whatever." And then he said it might actually be nothing. He noticed one thing on where the computer itself, there was a tiny anyway, so it's either nothing or $99. So it's okay. And what did you say to me though? What you said that meant about my life?
That it's a little out of control. I think the universe is communicating to you something about that when you're losing laptops left and right like that, or that you should just quit storing your laptop on the floor where you can
Well,
step on
trust
it.
me, I
Yeah.
did not. I had it plugged in on the floor. I moved it. I moved it to the
Yeah.
table, so it wasn't doing that. But what's funny about that, about my life being unmanageable, is that whenever I've been injured, I used to think that it's like, hey man, you got to slow down. That's God's way of telling you to just slow down in all ways, right? in this case, like you saw me running around, right?
Yes.
I am prepared as I've ever been. Everything's I used to be the guy, and I've talked about this in the show before, that I would get to an event and I would find a camera guy or an employee and say, "Do you have a battery? Do you have a disc?" I was that guy. And I'm not that guy anymore. I am very good at charging everything, having it all with me, having everything in its place, putting things back in the same place so you're not looking for them later. Like I'm on it. So when you said that, I'm like, you think I'm disorganized now? You should have seen me before.
Man, I don't know if I would have been able to talk to you if you were that guy.
Well, I mean, yeah, I'm still, like ask my wife when I say I'm going to start packing now, and then 3 hours later I start packing.
So now you're kind of HYROX World Championships disorganized.
Sure, that's one way to look at it. And what did I say to you? The thing I said after even Thursday. No, you don't get to do that, Jesus. You don't get to play like hype man.
He's
Like,
not
stop
saying
it.
anything.
You're either going to
Yeah.
tell us who you are or give us a hint, or I'm not putting any more of your comments up. Not even going to read anything else you say. That's your warning.
Okay, go ahead and say something. I have one more thing to say about World Champs.
Go ahead.
I just think that HYROX missed an opportunity for it to be a fully United States experience. First of all, yeah, they could have pulled in more Americans, like all those Wisconsin boys that Matt was talking about, like all that stuff, right? Where we could have pulled in more people to help, and it would have been a better experience that way with a lot more experienced judges and that sort of thing. But they missed having Danielle in the start tunnel. What the heck? That is the most American thing. Like, we just got there and there's this little screen and it sent us off, and it just isn't the same without her. And I just think that would have been such a gift to the world to allow her to do her thing for everybody.
I agree. The rest of the world, all they do is show the video,
I know.
which I
So,
didn't know until
yeah,
I
we
got
get
to
all the
talk to
hugs
her.
and feels. Yeah.
So, and they clearly brought, like, you had an American DJ and Kyle, and then you had one of the European DJs, and then on the mic you had Faisal, and you had the French guy. Is it right?
Right.
Danielle just did awards.
Yeah. I don't know why they didn't use her more, because she, for me, I mean, she's kind of the HYROX experience, right? Like she's the thing that gets us all going. And I think it's such a gift. And they really should be doing it everywhere. But the fact that they didn't take advantage of kind of the American flavor for this sport, I think was really too bad.
Yeah, you just brought me back to the thing about the gyms, right? Because here's the thing. You call your local gyms, right? And the affiliated whatever, and you go, hey, not even coming down from Milwaukee, like I said, Chicago area. Every gym, can you guys bring 10 judges? We'll give you 2 free tickets, use them however you want, do them for giveaways, whatever, right? And then not only would you get probably HYROX people, but you'd probably get some other people who hadn't done it yet. It's like, I've been thinking about doing one. Why don't I go with my crew and judge? And then they judge all day and they're like, well, I'm fucking doing one now. Do you know how many um random people that I've talked to at like sponsor booths at Spartan races? You're just shooting the shit because you're standing there all day, and they're just like, I've never been to one of these, but I want to sign up now. And maybe they never do, but just getting the experience. And clearly people who are in HYROX gyms are fitness people, but they still have never been to one. And then you go to one and you're like, oh, well, I'm definitely signing up the next time it comes. So again, don't tell me they're too big. Don't tell me they're too busy. That's a job someone can have. Like being in charge of getting volunteers at every venue, and especially the world champs.
Yeah, it just seemed like they're just not, look, they've got all these affiliates. Why aren't they using the network? It seems strange. And I think a notable absence was Brian the Ginger, right? We usually see him there working these events. I'm not quite sure. He was in New York. I'm not sure where he was this time, but they're kind of these Americans that I have just seen over and over again that just, I felt like we could have kind of hosted it better with our crew, and they kind of just came in and did their own thing and didn't allow it to be a more of an American experience. I think that's too bad.
I agree.
Yeah.
So what I said to you Thursday was, Jesus already told you I'm not reading your comments anymore, and I won't even say your name anymore after this. The what I said on Friday, or maybe it was Thursday, was okay, I'll never miss this again. I've missed World Champs before, I will never miss it again. Then they announce Sweden in a cool
Yeah.
fucking stadium.
Yeah.
So I'm there. I am gonna start looking at dates. We don't know the date. We hope it's June-ish, right? But I'm gonna look at Expedia and book some hotels. I would love to go to Sweden. Some were worried. They were like, "Oh, it's gonna be Abu Dhabi. It's gonna be China." Not yet. Way too small. When they get in a couple years, they'll be big enough that it doesn't matter where they hold it. They'll say, "Suck it, you can come." But there's no way they were gonna hold it in
Singapore.
APAC
Yeah.
this year for sure.
Yeah.
So I think we got a couple more years on that. I also want to talk about. We also, I guess, we could say. You want to save the majors and stuff for next week?
I think, what else are we going to talk about? I mean, I do think HYROX may come out with some stuff this week anyway. And I think that a full understanding of the majors and a chance to really, really discuss that, I think would be a better use of our time next week. Oh, and now he's out.
Nope. Sorry, I'm back. All righty. So, thank you everybody for watching. We will probably not go live again for a while, but thanks for coming on. But here, this was a great reason to do it, right?
Yeah, I think it feels special, and I really appreciate the comments. I think it's fun to see how invested everybody was in this, and I'm glad we didn't just complain about the slides the whole time. I think there was a lot more to talk about, so I'm glad we did.
No, of course, and yeah, I think it's funny though because usually it's the three of us, and even though I was outside the one time, for the most part, I'm in a controlled environment. It goes super smooth. Tonight, I'm home. My computer's in the shop. That's why. P.S. By the way, that's why we're not on my computer. I'm using
Oh,
what now is my wife's computer, which is the 4th-generation Mac that isn't working. Plus, River's hungry, and shit's going wild over here, and my phone's dying, computer's dying. So the one time we go live in 3 months, and this all happened.
oh, so
But
they don't see this chaos usually. That's what it is. Because I was like, this feels like Monday to me. So
oh, okay. Well, yeah, because I hide most of it till we hit record or I edit it out or whatever. But yeah, this was pretty bad. So yeah, I think it was nice to do special. I think we won't wait till next Worlds to bring it. I think, but yeah, let's do it once in a while. I think this is a good way to do this. And want to shout out Matt Mason, Race Brain. Thank you for chiming in. They will
Matt,
have. They've already done a ton of stuff. They were doing
yeah,
immediate reactions. Like Matt left, went to his house, came back. So go check out Race Brain. But if you're watching the show, you probably already do subscribe to Race Brain. But I don't like to make assumptions, so go check out
no,
Race Brain, and
yeah,
you can
wait to hear
catch
what they have to say for sure.
and you can catch me, Cheryl, and Dave, and special guests talk about sleds next week.
Excellent, excellent.